A Pet's Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit apetslife.ie.
Well, it being Tuesday, we welcome the wonderful Des Groom, the vet from Gym Dog. Des, welcome to KFM.
Morning, Dave. Great to be here again.
Now, I have to say, before we get into the questions, Des, and I mentioned this to the team outside, your name is Des Groom. You were born to be a vet.
Yeah, it's not a showbiz name. I didn't make it up especially for the job. No, it's the actual name. Yeah. Many generations of us actually around the Carberry area where I grew up. Yeah. So very local to Kildare. It's a Kildare name, if you like.
Tell me, what's the best thing about being a vet?
Well, I do enjoy the daily challenges of the sick animals coming in and out, and I enjoy being able to get a result, to have some success, and have them leaving the surgery feeling better than when they came in. So lots and lots of little wins every day, which do make up for the disappointments and the losses.
Right, okay. Before we get into the subject of losses, Des, just to mention to the listeners, any questions, especially on the subject of pets in hot weather, we love to hear from you today. And you can send your questions in to Des, 0833 97 97 97. So let's start with this one, Des. Could Des maybe talk someday about pet grief? And I think today is the someday. I have witnessed dogs grieving long term for their past owners. Dogs grieving for the loss of another dog in the family. And of course, at the same time, owners trying to cope with the loss of their pets and are trying to support the pet left behind who is also grieving his lost pal. That's from Damien.
Yeah, it's a fact, and I hear it every week from customers who've lost a dog and have another one at home. They report back to us that the poor dog that's left spends a lot of time looking around the house for his pal. There's confusion, there's loneliness, there's that sense of loss, there's a missing void in their routine, in their lives. So pet grief, as in grief of one pet for another, it's a real thing. Now, look, it isn't as deep and possibly as long-lasting in many ways, thankfully, as human grief. And there are ways to deal with it. So one of the first things in terms of dealing with it, I'd say, is that the dogs aren't like us in the sense that they're not self-aware. They don't have great long-term memory. They're not cerebral. They live in the moment. So it is possible to change their habits, change their minds, and change their feelings. And one of the ways you can do this is by changing the routine. So if they've lost a companion, there was 2 dogs in the house or even 3, and suddenly one is missing, you would need to change the routine for those dogs. So all of the normal activities that the third dog or the second dog always took part in, change that around a little bit. Now, that will help to change the patterns of behaviour and the patterns of memory that the dog that's left behind actually has. And if you change their behaviours, change their daily activities, change their patterns, they will forget and they'll move past the grief.
Would you recommend, Des, if there were 2 dogs in the house and one passes, that you would maybe get one rather quickly to replace the other one, or is that a bad idea?
Yeah, when the family are ready. It might be a few weeks or thereabouts. When the family are ready to replace the poor dog that passed away, it's a very good thing to do, because that poor dog that's left, he's used to having a companion. He's used to having a buddy to do everything with. So bringing in a suitable companion again for the dog that's left behind is a really good idea. But you have to consider a few things before you do that. You have to consider the age and energy levels and habits and activities of the dog that's left. So I would get an older dog, an older rescue dog, if you have an older dog left, a less active dog. Maybe don't get a puppy that's going to become too overpowering, too active, too hyper, or too big. A puppy might be a good thing, providing the puppy is going to be smaller. Right? The other thing you have to bear in mind is the dog that's left. Is it a male? Is he neutered? Is he sociable? Is he grumpy? Think about all of these things. Maybe ask your vet and even ask the breeders, the breeder of the puppy you're looking at, what sort of a mix would best suit. Because you will get dogs that don't particularly accept or like or fit in with the companion that's brought in. So 2 older dogs together is great. 2 females together might be great. 2 neutered males together might be great. A puppy could be a great idea, providing the puppy remains smaller and less boisterous than the one that's left.
This is one that is on the topic that we were hoping to capitalise on today, but then we had the best rain shower ever. Should you, and if you should, what's the best advice to mind your dog's paws in the hot weather?
Yeah, I was thinking about this during the week because we had a few unexpectedly scorching days where the temperature for Ireland was very high, and in Jim Dog there in our doggy daycare centre, we did have to put some plans in place to be very careful about our daycare dogs being out in the paddocks and out in the play rings during the hot weather. So first thing about that is, right, 30 to 40 minutes outside in that sort of sun is enough for any dog, right? If you have a dog outside in the yard, you have to make sure there's shade present as well. You have to keep cool water present. You have to change the water regularly. You have to maintain shorter walks, right? If you have a dog that's indoors in hot weather, particularly if your dog sleeps indoors, that dog needs to probably sleep downstairs in the best ventilated room in the house, because our houses will get too hot very quickly, particularly for an older dog.
Is it safe, Des, to give human food to cats and dogs? Mag O'Neill wants to know that.
That's a very broad question. I would say processed food, no. Really good human food, a nice little bit of fresh protein, fresh vegetables. Not many people take into account the fact that dogs are omnivores, right? Cats are primarily carnivores. They eat mostly meat. But dogs, no. Dogs need a good mix of veg, carbohydrates and so on. So potatoes, brown rice, vegetables and all the rest of it is all good for dogs. Now, generally, I'm an advocate of a good, complete diet. The Jim Dog range, which you can pick up on petslife.ie, it's a complete diet. And people ask me, can I mix anything with it? Yes, you can. You can put nice, good, fresh vegetables, rice, potatoes, etc., in with the dog mix. Yes, but when you do that, you need to feed a bit less of the dog mix because it's complete. The calories are all in it. So if you're mixing and matching foods too much, you will very easily and very quickly make your dog overweight.
A question in from Karen Fitz, who says, is it true that fish, including the skin, is good for a dog, and particularly the dog's coat?
Yeah, really true. Absolutely, 100% true. Fish is great. Lots of dogs that are allergic to and develop food sensitivities and become sensitive to, chicken and processed foods and additives and colours and all the usual suspects, all the nasties that are in the processed foods and all the nasties that are in the cheap pet foods. And facts of modern life, really, with an awful lot of our processed products contain bad stuff. A real antidote to that is feed a nice fish-based diet to these dogs. So lots of dogs, for instance, that have allergies need and do benefit really well from a salmon or tuna or haddock or trout-based diets. And the better dog foods for the dogs with allergies and sensitivities tend to have fish proteins in them rather than chicken or any other animal proteins.
Could you ask Des if he has any tips on keeping a 9-month-old English bulldog puppy cool in the heat? I keep him in the shade with a fan and plenty of water, but he's still struggling with the heat. Yeah,
the problem with bulldogs, of course, is that they're brachycephalic. That means, as we say here, brachycephalic. Isn't that a great word, Dave? Yeah. Brachycephalic is the scientific or the veterinary term for the dogs with the squashed faces. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, the problem with these bulldogs, pugs, Frenchies, etc., they have narrow airways. They have a shorter, narrower nose, throat and larynx than a longer nosed dog. And that means it's harder for them to take in enough oxygen, it's harder for them to breathe. Now, that causes problems in hot weather because dogs cool themselves down by panting and breathing. They don't sweat. So this particular bulldog that this gentleman is referring to is having difficulty in the hot weather because he's struggling to cool himself down, because he's struggling to breathe quickly enough and fast enough to take in enough oxygen to cool himself down. So you're going to have to do it for him. And one way to do it for him, very simply, is in hot weather, a good shower. And you might have to do it a couple of times a day. 5 to 7 minutes of a cold shower a couple of times a day. When the weather gets back up into the 20s, that's what this bulldog is going to need.
Excellent. Okay. Ask Des, what is the best time to exercise our dogs in the heat? Claire wants to know.
Yeah, the evening, late in the evening. Found that ourselves this week at home in my house with Bonnie. She was full of beans and really enjoyed her trips to the Curragh in the evening from 7-8 p.m. onwards.
My 10-year-old Elsa in the last week or so was constantly licking her nose. Should I be worried? That's from Carol.
I wonder, was that sunburn, or is it some type of an allergic reaction? We'd like to know more about that. But I'd say, Carol, yes, you do want to probably have a vet have a look at that. Make sure that there isn't a sunburn lesion or some other type of sun lesion appearing on the dog's nose. Bear in mind, does your dog have a pink nose? Listener doesn't say, right? But pink-nosed dogs can develop nasty lesions on their nose, which are a reaction to sunlight, to the ultraviolet light, and these lesions can become cancerous if they're left untreated.
Well, maybe because we did have a good week.
We did have a good week.
And it seems to be that's what happened.
The dog was out in the sun, tip of the nose, where the hair doesn't grow, has probably gotten a little bit of sunburn, and there's ultraviolet sensitivity there. Can be dangerous. This might be a dog that needs regular sunblock on the nose, on the tips of the ears, even on the tips of the paws of the feet or whatever.
I have to ask, can you use regular sunblock?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Now, the vets will give you proper pet sunblock that's thicker, that's more suited to a hairy coat. But any port in a storm, as it were, you can use a good standard factor 50 on your pets.
50?
Oh yeah, factor 50, the strongest you can get. And use it on the tips of the ears for those white cats with the pink ears, or the white dogs with the pink ears. Pink noses, lips, right? That pigmented area where hair doesn't grow. Sunburn, as I say, in those areas, for the white dogs and the white cats, sunburn in those areas can be very dangerous. So do use factor 50 if and when the good weather comes back.
The question I would think of, Des, right, you put on the factor 50 onto the exposed pieces and places.
Yeah.
Is it dangerous then for the animal to lick
the
factor? No,
it's not really. We know they will lick it off. Just put a little bit on again.
Let's talk about cats for a sec. I have a 13-year-old cat that lives outdoors. I think she's finding it hard to groom herself locked in. Should I get her groomed?
Yeah.
Oh, she's locked in matted or something.
Yeah, she's matted. Okay, there are two reasons why that cat is having difficulty grooming. Okay, the first possible reason is it's hurting her to bend and turn to reach the crevices and reach her back end. And the reason why it's hurting her to bend and turn is because she's 13, she's arthritic, she might be stiff and sore in different joints in her body. So that's the first possible reason, arthritis in that cat, right? Second possible reason, and this is really, really, really common in older cats, is dental disease. So it's hurting her to groom herself, so she has stopped doing it. It's hurting her to groom herself because she has bad teeth. So I would, if I was going to have a bet with you now, Dave, I'd say one or other of those reasons is why this cat isn't grooming herself. So this cat definitely needs to see a vet and have a good investigation, a good veterinary checkup, and figure out which of those two reasons is the reason why she's not grooming herself. And both are fixable, both are manageable. So this cat does need veterinary attention, and if she gets that veterinary attention and gets the arthritis sorted out and or gets the dental disease sorted out, her quality of life will massively improve.
What can I put on a Frenchie's nose? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's very dry, it looks crusty. He has a dark nose. He's indoors mostly.
It's a dark nose. Okay. I don't know if that's sunburn then. It may not be. It might be dry skin. So you might have to think about a fish oil supplement. Omega-3 or omega-6 might be required there if it's simply a dry skin issue. Omega-3 or omega-6, which would be in the skin supplements that you can get in the vets or the pet shops for, as I say, for dry skin.
Des, I've one more to do. Okay, and I'm sorry now if I didn't get around to everyone's. This is the one that says, my dog is aged 10 years old, but lately gone slow walking. His legs in the front are shorter than the back ones.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's too much weight on the front legs that is slowing him down. He's a bit heavy when I lift him, yet when he gets groomed he looks thinner and younger. Has arthritis in his back hip. He's a Cairn Terrier, an English breed, I think.
Little Cairn. Cairns are a nice little dog. They're a bit like a Westie, except they're a different colour. They're a darker colour. They can be brindle. Usually a little dog of about 10 kilo, that sort of thing. Now look if he's a little bit arthritic, there's a treatment for that. We were talking about Librela in the show in different weeks. It's a type of injection that's given monthly. It's really effective. It's been a game changer in terms of the treatment for arthritis. So little dog might need a course of Librela, might need another type of an anti-inflammatory for arthritis. If he's arthritic, he should see the vet. He should get veterinary help. And again, you'll find his mobility his ability to exercise, his happiness, his quality of life. That'll all massively improve if the arthritis is treated.
Okay, we're going to squeeze one more in. I like this one.
Good.
Our puppy has started running around in circles, chasing his tail. Is that normal, or is there something amiss?
Well, look, it might be just boredom. It might be just play. But look, just in case it's not boredom or play, the only thing that springs to mind is, have you ever heard of the anal gland, Dave?
No. Fifth.
Anal gland is in a little area around the rectum under the tail, and it gives off a scent. It also secretes an oil that helps to prevent constipation. The anal gland can get blocked, right? And lots of dogs need the anal gland treated or given a little bit of attention by a vet once or twice a year. So do have that checked out. It might be the anal gland. On the other hand, it could be just play.
Des, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dave, thank you.
And till next week, you'll be here with JD.
I will.
Have a great week.
It's a pet's life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.